Welcome to the Layman's Seminary. What I'm going to be doing here is starting a series called What is Neo-Nomianism? And this is within Reformed theology, but I myself am free grace. So that's how I'm going to be evaluating things from that perspective. But so I'm just trying to work through these things, and this is part of some debate preparation stuff. I'm not debating a neo-nomian, but I am going to be debating someone on perseverance, and so this came up as an issue. So we'll begin here. This is what Jody Dillo says in Final Destiny. He says, more recently, others have openly abandoned the conclusions of the Reformation and boldly assert that salvation is by works after all. In this, they are following Reformed theology to its logical conclusion. That's his assertion. After revisiting passages such as Romans 2:13, the story of the rich young ruler, and references to entering the kingdom by means of works, these writers have concluded that Rome is partially correct, Rome being a reference to the Catholic Church. Justification has initial and final aspects, and both are soteriological. The former depends on faith alone, and the latter on supposedly non-meritorious works that God produces in the believer. Salvation in this system is a process, not an event, and the works are constituent. I think that's how you say it. Constituent, yeah. And a condition for final salvation. Okay? Whole lot there, right? So let me I tried drawing this out. Most people know from my channel that I draw the chart being the 3 tenses of salvation. So before we examine this chart, I'll go ahead and draw my chart in contrast to it, right? So when I draw my chart, I have this at top, and I have this line here, and this line here, right? And this is position, experience, and ultimate. Most people know this positional justification, experiential sanctification, and ultimate glorification, okay? In this process, in this view of things, this is a vertical. One event places you in the heavenlies when you believe the gospel. When you get a glorified body, that's also one event. Okay? Rapture, resurrection, whatever, any of that part. Then, after you're saved, and actually this dot should go right here on the line so you can see the connection here. After you're saved, you have an in and out, up and down fellowship, broken line, showing you, that we sin. So these are vertical again, vertical relationships. The experiential sanctification is horizontal, okay? The reason I'm showing you this is because in the one that I'm fixing to show you, rather than there being a vertical relationship that I can tell, it just seems to view things only horizontal, okay? Rather than viewing the event of making the basis for your eternal security, it seems to be that it's a process of persevering, or whatever term you want to use, to the end that actually gives you salvation. But let's look at this. So the Neo-Nomian chart, look, there's no columns here. But I still tried to put things in places where there would be a column. So they have initial justification by faith alone. Okay? And then on this side, you have final justification by non-meritorious works that God produces. So you're like, okay. Then you have works, constituent conditions for final salvation. So the just processing this, okay, guys, is the works that a person does according to the system that God produces are constituent, meaning they're the component of saving faith, and they're the condition for final salvation. Now, this is not typically how Reformed talk, okay? And I want Reformed people out there to be aware of this, because y'all may not consider this actually Reformed theology, Reformed soteriology. All right, moving forward. This is what's shocking, though, because you're going to hear some heavyweights. You're like, oh, wow, I listen to that person. You know, I'm free grace, but I have a mixed audience out there. So these viewpoints will be addressed throughout the book. Some of its more recent advocates are Thomas Schreiner and R. Dale Kennedy, The Race Set Before Us, in Biblical Theology, Perseverance, and Assurance. Thomas Schreiner, Perseverance, Assurance, Survey, and Proposal. Paul Rainbow, The Way of Salvation, The Role of Christian Obedience and Justification. Alan Stanley, Did Jesus Teach Salvation by Works? The Role of Works and Salvation in the Synoptic Gospels. Now, what's really interesting is recently, the hyper dispensationalists that teach that each dispensation has a different salvation. Some of them are pulling from these resources because they make arguments about faith plus works, and but that's not what we're dealing about. But I wanted to make people aware of that. So some of these are people that y'all know out there, So let's keep going. So this is what Delos says. In this system, the gospel is backloaded, not just by demanding that works are the necessary evidence of salvation, but also making works the means, the condition, and the constituent part of final justification. Good works are not just a necessary result of justification, as the experimental predestinarian maintains, they are necessary as the way of salvation. Okay? So I map this out again. So once again, here we have the Neonomian chart, and it's a process. There's no walls here. Okay? So they would say that the works is a necessary evidence of the initial salvation, right? But they say that works are also the means or the condition or the constituent, which is the component part of final justification. So you see what's going on here? In one sense, they're flowing from, but then they become the basis or the condition. Experimental predestinarians or your typical Dortian Calvinists, they typically reply that works are a necessary result of faith. But the Neonomian says it's necessary as a way of salvation by using the term means. Okay, listen to this, guys. This is Dillo again. Early on, this was seen as a threat to the Reformation. W.R. Godfrey notes the much greater danger than antinomianism historically facing the Reformation balance of law and gospel has been moralism and legalism. Moralists, or neonomians, so stress Christian responsibility that obedience becomes more than that of fruit or evidence of faith. Rather, obedience comes to be seen as a constituent element of justifying faith. Legalism inevitably undermines Christian assurance and joy and tends to create a self-centered, excessively introspective piety, remarkably like medieval piety. Okay? And we're fixing to look at the actual source, and you'll see these exact words. Modern-day neonomians, such as John MacArthur, y'all hear that? John Piper, hear that? Paul Rainbow, Alan Stanley, and Thomas Schreiner share the belief that obedience is a constituent element of justifying faith. So here's the point. According to this article, neonomianism is a worse threat than antinomianism. Okay, remember, antinomianism is what people accuse free grace of often, even though I don't believe that charge sticks. So here's the source that we were quoting from, New Dictionary Theology. And here's the actual quote. So you can see it all there, fully there. Okay, so this is what Ditlow says now about MacArthur. MacArthur, a neo-nomian advocate, expresses his theology this way. Salvation isn't the result of an intellectual exercise. It comes from a life lived in obedience and service to Christ as revealed in Scripture. It's the fruit of actions, not intentions. There's no room for passive spectators. Words without actions are empty and futile. The life we live, not the works we speak, determine our eternal destiny. Salvation, he says, comes from and is the fruit of actions. Obviously, this is salvation by faith plus works. All right. So Dillow is quoting MacArthur here, and this is from the book Hard to Believe. But watch this, guys. Something I explored. I have the book Hard to Believe. All right. Here's the actual quote from Hard to Believe, and it's different from what Dillow quoted. So I'm like, okay. So who changed? Did Dillow have an original quote and this book was changed? Or did Dillow misrepresent, or was he paraphrasing? What was going on there, right? Well, what I did was I took the words that Dillow gave and I put them into Google Books. And this is what I came up with. This is part of the workbook for Hard to Believe. Listen, guys. Don't believe anyone says it's easy to become a Christian. Salvation for sinners cost God his own son. It cost God's son his life, and it'll cost you the same thing. Salvation isn't the result of intellectual exercise. It comes from a life lived in obedience and service to Christ, as revealed in Scripture. It's the fruit of actions, not intentions. There's no room for passive specters. Word without actions are empty and futile. So this is supposed to be from Hard to Believe, page 93. Well, this quote here, let me read it so you can hear the difference. This is page 93. Don't believe anyone says it's easy to become a Christian. Salvation for sinners costs God his own son. It costs God's son his life, and it'll cost you the same thing. Salvation isn't gained by reciting mere words. Now notice, it doesn't say intellectual exercise here. Saving faith transforms the heart, and that in turn transforms behavior. Let's see if it says that. No, it does not. It says it comes from a life lived in obedience and service to Christ revealed in Scripture. Faith's fruit is seen in actions, not intentions. This says it. What is the it? Salvation. It is the fruit of actions, not intentions. Okay? Look how that's been cleaned up. Somebody cleaned it up. Now, I know personally that other people edit and comment on MacArthur's stuff, okay? So it's possible if you want to defend MacArthur, then you could say somebody else wrote this. I don't know. I don't know which way to go on this. I just want y'all to be aware of it. But there clearly is changes, okay? Faith's fruit is seen in actions, not intentions. Look how this has been cleaned up. And no one's ever showed me this. I just discovered this. Faith's fruit, okay? Positional faith, believing the result is seen in actions, not intentions. That's different than saying this. And just so you know, I'm not making this up. Salvation isn't the result of an intellectual exercise. What is it? The antecedent, salvation, it comes from a life lived in obedience and service to Christ as revealed in Scripture. It is, in other words, same salvation, is the fruit of actions. So the result of actions, okay? So look at the difference here. This is saying the fruit of action. So you do an action and you get salvation. the way this is read. But the other one is saying what does it say? Faith fruit. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go to the next one. Faith's fruit. So in that one, faith is salvation leads to results. So you see they're reversed. Okay. All right. I think y'all get the point. And then there's the rest of it. So we got a couple issues, guys. And I'm just going to write this out to be thinking about it. I guess the first thing to ask is, what is Reformed soteriology? I just put salvation. What is Reformed soteriology? Is it or let's do the word does. Does it allow for neo-nomianism? Can't spell that right. We just saw that one had faith. One version of Hard to Believe, or a quote from Hard to Believe, said faith results in fruit. And then we saw the other one that actions, plural, results in salvation. Those are totally opposite. Anyway, there's more that to be said about this, but this is the beginning of this series about neo-nomianism, because some people believe, even when they're from camp, that this is an aberration, that this is not actually traditional Reformed theology, that something's being changed, that this is a compromise with Rome or whatever. So anyway, y'all decide. Let me know what y'all think in the comments or whatever. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for one notification. Give this a thumbs up for the algorithm. Share it with others. Keep this ministry in prayer. That's the most important thing. And then if you feel like you want to donate, the PayPal link will be underneath the trailer video. God bless.